Dubai, 2007. Boeing executives were counting their chickens before they hatched. They had the champagne ready, the contracts were being drafted. Emirates was about to order up to 20 Boeing 747-8 Intercontinentals, the deal that would breathe new life into the Queen of the Skies. Victory was inevitable, and then Emirates said no. What should have been the aircraft's defining moment, the customer that would validate everything, never happened. Without Emirates, Boeing's last jumbo was dead on arrival. It's tempting to think this was just about fuel burn or price negotiations, but the reality is far more intricate. This wasn't about rejecting one aircraft order. It was about Boeing completely misreading the airline that held their fate in its hands. If you want to discover more stories about how billion-dollar aviation deals collapse behind closed doors, subscribe to Skyline Secrets right now. We're pulling back the curtain on decisions that shaped the industry. So why did Emirates walk away from the 747-8? And how did that single rejection end the age of the jumbo jet forever? Let me ask you this. Have you ever flown on a 747? If yes, tell me which airline and route in the comments. I'm curious how many of you experienced the Queen of the Skies before she disappeared. To understand why this deal imploded, you need to grasp what Boeing was actually pitching. The aviation industry was locked in a brutal capacity war. Airbus had just unleashed the A380, a colossal double-decker hauling over 500 passengers. Airlines, especially across the Middle East, were falling in love with it. Hub capacity was king. Boeing's counterpunch? The 747-8 Intercontinental. Take the legendary 747, stretch it longer, bolt on new engines, and redesigned wings. More passengers than the classic 747, better fuel economy, all wrapped in that 747 prestige airlines craved. Sounds brilliant, right? But Emirates wasn't just another potential customer. They were already the world's biggest A380 customer, 47 on order at that moment, eventually ballooning to 161 before settling at 123 aircraft, more A380s than the rest of the planet combined. They were also one of the largest 777-300ER customers globally. These twin-engine workhorses were forming the backbone of their sprawling network, linking Dubai to everywhere from New York to Sydney. So why would Emirates, already drowning in A380s and 777s, suddenly crave the 747-8? Perhaps they saw it as the perfect middle ground, more prestige than the 777, less capacity than the A380, an aircraft that could plug gaps in their network while maintaining that iconic jumbo mystique. The 747 had always been about prestige. Pan Am used it to launch the jet age. Every major airline wanted the Queen of the Skies on their marquee routes. But here's where Boeing made their first catastrophic miscalculation. They assumed Emirates made decisions based primarily on prestige. Wrong. Emirates balances prestige with profit, and the numbers had to work first. Let's examine where Emirates might have deployed these 747-8s. The obvious candidates were their premium-heavy trunk routes. Dubai to New York, that grueling 15-hour journey worth millions in business-class revenue. Dubai to London, one of the planet's busiest international corridors. Dubai to Sydney, where range and passenger comfort mattered most. Boeing pitched the 747-8i as perfect for these missions, 400 passengers in typical configurations. But Emirates never did typical. They wanted to create something spectacular. Fewer seats, maximum luxury, possibly shower spas like their A380s. Except there was one glaring problem Boeing either underestimated or prayed Emirates would overlook. Dubai to Los Angeles, marginal payload with a full passenger load. Dubai to Sao Paulo, challenging at best. These weren't just routes, they were Emirates' future growth markets. And the 747-8, I couldn't reach them reliably with the loads that made them profitable. Every foot Boeing stretched the 747-8 for additional capacity cost them in range. And range was everything to Emirates' hub and spoke empire. This was the first crack in Boeing's pitch, but it definitely wasn't the last. Boeing had made a fundamental strategic choice with the 747-8i that would sabotage the Emirates deal before negotiations even began. They had prioritized capacity over capability. The aircraft could carry up to 467 passengers in standard configuration. Impressive numbers that looked phenomenal in marketing materials, but that 18-foot stretch came at a brutal cost. The 747-8i was attempting to be two completely different aircraft simultaneously, a capacity competitor competitor to the A380 and a range performer for ultra-long-haul operations, but Boeing needed to compete with the A380's massive capacity, not just improve on the aging 747. For Emirates, this created impossible operational challenges. Their entire business model depended on connecting the world through Dubai. If an aircraft couldn't reach every corner of their network with viable payloads, it complicated their entire fleet strategy. The numbers revealed the fatal flaw. While the 747-8I's range improved to about 7,730 nautical miles, it still couldn't match what Emirates needed for their most ambitious routes. Dubai to Los Angeles spans roughly 7,900 nautical miles. Doable, but barely, and definitely not with the payload Emirates required to optimize revenue. Dubai to Sao Paulo, even more problematic. Emirates examined these figures and identified the core issue. The 747-8I was attempting to serve multiple missions, but excelling at none that specifically benefited Emirates' network strategy. But even if the range had worked flawlessly, Emirates faced an even more brutal reality. Fleet economics and operational efficiency. The 747-8I seated only marginally more passengers than the 777-300ER, maybe around 30 more in Emirates' luxury configurations, but it burned significantly more fuel, 4 engines versus 2, more complex maintenance, higher training costs. This added up to millions more in annual operating expenses. Emirates had already committed to 777-300 ERS in staggering numbers. Over 140 would eventually be delivered. They had the pilots, the mechanics, the spare parts infrastructure. Fleet commonality wasn't just about efficiency, it was about competitive advantage in airline economics. Why operate a small fleet of 27 747-8s when the 777-300ER could carry nearly as many passengers, fly almost as far, but do it with dramatically lower operating costs? Boeing kept hammering the prestige angle. The 747 was an icon. Passengers loved it. It would be Emirates' flagship on premium routes. But Emirates understood something crucial. Prestige also had to be profitable. The airline's A380 proved this perfectly. Maximum prestige that also delivered maximum capacity and revenue. The 747-8I offered prestige, but without proportional economic benefit. There was another issue Boeing probably didn't want to emphasize: pilot complexity. Emirates was growing explosively, adding routes constantly. The airline was managing A380 pilots, 777 pilots, and eventually A350 pilots. Adding another aircraft type meant more complexity, more training costs, more scheduling nightmares. The 747-8I risked becoming what airline executives dread most: an expensive specialty aircraft that couldn't justify its operating costs across the network. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Do you think airlines today focus too much on efficiency and not enough on passenger experience? Drop your thoughts below and don't forget to subscribe to Skyline Secrets, because we're just getting to the juiciest part of this story. While Boeing worked desperately to convince Emirates of the 747-8I's merits, Airbus was delivering everything Emirates wanted from the A380: maximum capacity, over 500 passengers in most Emirates configurations, slot efficiency at congested airports like Heathrow, and most importantly for Emirates' brand strategy, unmatched passenger experience. Emirates had transformed the A380 into something revolutionary. Onboard showers, business class bars, first class suites that were essentially flying hotel rooms. The aircraft became synonymous with Emirates' brand, luxury, innovation, the future of flying. Paired with celebrity endorsements, this made Emirates one of the world's most formidable airline brands. The 747-8I simply couldn't compete with that experience. Boeing's Queen of the Skies was still impressive, but evolutionary, not revolutionary. Emirates could build an excellent cabin, but nothing approaching the A380's wow factor. Emirates realized the 747-8I's cabin, while luxurious, couldn't match the A380's game-changing features like onboard showers and bars that defined their premium brand. This gap in passenger experience made the 747-8IA weaker fit for Emirates' strategy of differentiating through unmatched luxury. Emirates' strategy was crystallizing into perfect clarity. Use the A380 for maximum capacity and prestige on the biggest routes. Use the 777-300ER for efficiency and flexibility everywhere else. It was an elegant 2-aircraft solution that covered every possible mission. Where did the 747-8I fit? Absolutely nowhere. The 747-8i was too big to replace the 777, too small to match the A380, too expensive to justify as a niche player. Emirates saw the future with crystal clarity. A 380 plus 777 equals global coverage. Add a third different widebody type, pure operational complexity with minimal benefit. The 777-300ER became their workhorse. Over 140 delivered, connecting Dubai to destinations the 747-8i could never reach profitably. The A380 became Emirates' global signature, 123 delivered, making Emirates the world's largest operator by an enormous margin. The aircraft became synonymous with Emirates' brand internationally, but then throughout the 2000s, 10s, and 2020s, Emirates continued evolving. 205 Boeing 777X on order, 50 Airbus A350-900S-35, Boeing 787-9S for thinner routes. The strategy remained laser-focused, efficient twin jets for most missions, ultra-large aircraft for slot-constrained hubs, then fly from Dubai to feed into their massive global network from secondary cities within 6 hours of Dubai. Now we need to talk about what Emirates' rejection actually meant for Boeing. Without Emirates, passenger sales collapsed. Total production, excluding VIP aircraft, just 36 747-8s to 3 airlines. Lufthansa took 19, Korean Air took 10, Air China took 7, that was it. While Boeing struggled to sell just 36 passenger 747-8s, Airbus had secured 50 A380-90 orders from Emirates in 2019 and an additional 15 in 2023. Boeing had to pivot to the 777X, which has faced delays stretching into 2026, underscoring how Emirates' rejection exposed Boeing's misstep in a fiercely competitive market. Meanwhile, Emirates' bet on the A380 proved wildly successful. Emirates alone operated 123 A380s. The airline basically kept the A380's production alive until 2021. The last passenger 747-8i rolled off Boeing's production line in 2017, ending over 4 decades of passenger jumbo production. Emirates proved airlines could dominate globally with strategically chosen aircraft types. The 777 and A380 covered every mission Emirates needed, from 300 passenger flights to 500 plus passenger services. Today, Emirates operates one of the world's most efficient and profitable wide-body fleets, all without a single passenger 747. Which brings us to the prestige factor. Emirates' decision reflected a fundamental shift in airline fleet philosophy. The era of buying aircraft primarily for prestige was ending. Emirates, despite its luxury reputation, made business-first decisions. Prestige had to deliver proportional economic value, as their A380 success demonstrated. Emirates' global model demanded aircraft reaching anywhere from Dubai with profitable payloads. The 747-8i's range limitations weren't minor inconveniences. They were strategic constraints. Fleet commonality became increasingly critical. Why operate multiple aircraft types when 2 could handle every mission? Emirates proved that airlines could build massive networks with strategic simplicity, large aircraft for high-capacity routes, efficient aircraft everywhere else. Today's successful carriers reflect similar philosophies. Complex fleets with multiple aircraft types became less common, not more. Emirates almost changed the Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental's fate. The airline's potential order would have represented nearly half the program's total production. Its backing might have convinced other airlines to follow, possibly extending passenger 747 production for years. But the numbers simply didn't align. Too much complexity for insufficient benefit. The 747-8i had no clear place in Emirates' strategic equation, regardless of its iconic status. Today, with the A380 out of production and passenger 747 production ended, the industry has no very large passenger aircraft in development. Airlines operate with efficient twin jets, even on routes that could benefit from more capacity. The Queen of the Skies served aviation magnificently, but in airline economics, heritage doesn't guarantee continued success. So here's my final question for you. Do you think we'll ever see another 4-engine passenger jet, or is that era gone forever? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you found this breakdown fascinating, you need to subscribe to Skyline Secrets right now. We're uncovering the aviation deals, the strategic decisions, and the billion-dollar mistakes that the mainstream media never talks about. Hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.